Well, I mean, especially when it comes to math and science, there's always a dire need for math and science teachers. So, like in my case, I didn't even go through a formal education program. I was in my just regular college coursework for economics, and a school in the neighborhood really needed a math teacher. So I started showing up there my junior, senior years of college. While in school for economics, I was just going to this school a few times a week, just helping out in the science classes. And then by the time I graduated, they had an opening, so they brought me in. Start a YouTube channel. So I started putting these videos out, explaining the concepts that we were doing in class. I actually have more videos than this. It's just that a lot of them are unlisted because they contain actual coursework
Okay.
from the certificate, from the data analytics certificate.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't want to have them public. I wanted to
I
only
see.
have them available to my classmates.
Right.
So most of the videos aren't even viewable by
Right.
the public, but they're still viewable by people in the class as long as they have the links. Maybe if you're in second grade or third grade, you can rely on that calculator as a crutch to, help you subtract two numbers without having to think about how to subtract.
Hmm.
But by the time you get to high school and college, that calculator is only there to save you time.
Yes.
It's not there to be the student for you.
Yeah.
And it's the same with AI. As you get better and better with data, maybe if you're an absolute beginner, you can rely on it, but you get to a point when you're doing high level analytics work and it's not a crutch anymore. It's just a
Hi, Chaz. Welcome and thank you so much for being here.
yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're a YouTuber like me, and we have a lot of things in common. Today, we're gonna talk about Amazon, all about Amazon Technical Academy, your Amazon experience. But for people watching, before we get to Amazon, make sure you watch the video until the end because we're not gonna start with that part right now. We're gonna start by asking Chad, his story and all the way up to Amazon. He went from an associate to a junior software engineer today. So Chaz, please tell everybody about you.
Right. Well, as you said, my name is Chaz, in case you haven't already figured that out. I grew up in New York City in the Bronx, uh, went to college in New Jersey at Rutgers, got an economics degree, decided to become a teacher right out of college, a math teacher. Uh, I love teaching. I love being with the kids, but just there's so much else involved with teaching that it just really wasn't for me. So then I moved on. I ended up becoming a supervisor at UPS, and that was before I ended up at Amazon, where I've actually been to Amazon twice because the first time I was hired by Amazon, I was fired a year later for poor attendance. But I solved that issue, came back to Amazon as a warehouse associate, moved up to ship clerk, moved up again to the transportation, to the Tom team, and now I just recently got into the Amazon Technical Academy. So hopefully by this time next year, I'll be a software engineer. And this is my cat Lucky, who likes to jump into my YouTube videos. He's the actual star of my channel.
Wow, yeah. Hi, Lucky. Welcome, welcome. Wow, that's what a story. That's awesome. Yeah,
See,
we
right on cue, right? As soon as I start talking, as soon as he realizes the camera's on, he jumps right into the frame.
Wow, yeah, he's great. He's a great YouTuber. Yeah, you have a great story. Like you said, you started Amazon, you left, you came back. Definitely, I will ask you your advice for people, so they don't get in trouble. That's a good lesson to learn. And so you have a bachelor in economics, and you have experience teaching math. Um, so can you share a little bit about your teaching experience and your advice to people who want to get into that field?
Well, I mean, especially when it comes to math and science, there's always a dire need for math and science teachers. So, like in my case, I didn't even go through a formal education program. I was in my just regular college coursework for economics, and a school in the neighborhood really needed a math teacher. So I started showing up there my junior, senior years of college. While in school for economics, I was just going to this school a few times a week, just helping out in the science classes. And then by the time I graduated, they had an opening, so they brought me in.
Wow, wow. That's good. That's good. And then you were teaching math. Was it what was some of the challenges of teaching?
Well, for me, because I tend to be extremely organized with what I do. I like to do everything in PowerPoint. I like to have all my animations. I like to anticipate what students are going to need help with and try to present it in a way that is easy for them to take in, especially if they're visual learners.
Hmm.
And I'm no good on a chalkboard. I have terrible handwriting, so I had to do everything on a computer, just with my projector. So because of that, it ended up being a lot more work than most teachers may go through. And which is, I mean, you would think that after 1 year, I'd have enough material to then just reuse the old stuff. But
Right.
unfortunately, I taught in a school district where they would change the curriculum every year. So it would be new textbooks every year, completely new system. They would move me to a different grade. So I was always constantly making new animations, new PowerPoints, new videos.
So
And
you,
after 5 years, it was just burning me out.
yeah. So the other teachers, they was not doing that. They were not doing power keynote.
No, this it was a school where I mean obviously I just started teaching, so I was just kind of automatically one of the youngest ones. But it was all the teachers there were much more experienced than me, and as a consequence, much older than me, and they didn't really use computers as much. And
Right.
this was the early 2000s where not everybody had an iPhone, so not everybody was as tech savvy back then.
Right. Wow. So for someone who wants to get become a teacher, what would you advise them?
You gotta love it.
Right.
That's the main thing. Is if you don't if you think it's just an opportunity to make money, you're not going to make it because it's not. First of all, there isn't a lot of money in it to begin with,
Hmm.
but then secondly, it's just you have to be genuinely passionate about it. Like I mean, I love teaching, and even I left after 5 years
Right.
because it was burning me out. So
Right.
you have to be obsessed
Wow.
with education, with teaching. So if that's you, I promise you'll make it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great advice. You have to love it because you definitely will be burned out at some point, right? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and then you went to UPS, right? Like,
Yes, I did.
yeah. So what was that? You had some great results. I saw on your LinkedIn profile. You helped them a lot with I think with the turnover rates, right? You helped them push that down from almost 60% to less than 28%. So what was that experience working for UPS?
Right. So when I first got there, they put me in the training and retention department, and they put me in charge of all the training supervisors. And
Okay.
this was, 6 weeks in at UPS. This was my first office job. I had only ever been a teacher. And, at that point, I had only ever been in a classroom because, before that I was in college, and before that I was in high school and middle school. So I had never actually had a job that wasn't inside of a school building.
Wow.
So it was a new thing for me. And in a way, I was kind of still teaching because I had all of these training supervisors I mean, from the turnover rates when I got there were, I mean, they were really bad. Like you were saying, close to 60%,
No.
and especially with the new hires. So I wanted to find the root cause. So just started asking, well, I started asking the new hires themselves, how are you feeling? What's going on with this? And one thing I really saw as a theme was that the new hires didn't know what was going on in the building. They didn't even know who their manager was a lot of
Wow.
the time. So I decided to start doing meetings at Amazon. They're called stand ups. At UPS, we just had a meeting at the start of every shift where I would assign all of the training supervisors to to absolutely meet up with the different new hires at different parts of the shift to
Hmm.
make sure that they always have somebody that they can talk to a few times during the shift. I made sure their managers would have at least one conversation every day for the
Okay.
first 30 days, even if it's just 1 minute
Yes.
of the shift. I mean, it doesn't, that's all it takes
Right.
to help engage those employees. Ask them, and I had to make sure it was something non-work related, and we would document it. So I would have these managers actually document what they spoke about with
Oh,
their
wow.
employees to make sure that, and we tracked it. I kept everything in Excel. I kept statistics on all the managers, so how often they actually documented their conversations.
Wow.
We would actually go verify, make sure that we'd ask the new hires, hey, has your manager been speaking to you, just to make sure. And turnover went way down. I mean, the goal was 32%. We managed to get it below that. I think it was 28 in that first year.
Wow.
And a lot of it came down to just engaging the employees and making them feel like they actually belong in the building.
Wow. That's such a great point. As you know, that's also true for UPS. It's true for Amazon. There's a lot of people who work for big companies, especially in the warehouse. They're like, I never saw my manager. They never come to me say hi. They just get lost. Imagine someone getting out from high school, right? So a lot of people, Amazon hire people who have high school or even don't have any degree. Even I guess UPS as well. So it's so intimidating to get into a new
Right.
corporation like that, and your first 2 3 months, and you have no one to talk to. Your managers, they're not checking on you. So that's really that's a good that was a great idea.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad it worked out. Eventually, they had me go to other buildings too. Especially, there was a building that was opening up after about 3 years or 4 years of my tenure there, and they sent me over there every day for a few months just to get their training department up and running. And I was thankful that they trusted me with all of that.
Wow. Yeah, that was a success story. You had that project, it was very successful, and definitely they will try to duplicate that in different sites. And yeah, so before we get to Amazon, then I saw you a certified data analyst. I'm also certified with the Google Career Certificate. So what was your experience doing data analytics? And yeah,
Well, it's it's funny because well, we're not quite talking about Amazon just yet, but I wouldn't have gotten this certification if
right.
not for Amazon,
Yes.
because I actually did it through Amazon's Career Choice program, which for those of you who don't work at Amazon, it's if you've been an employee at Amazon at any level for at least 12 months, you can sign up for courses, you could sign up for college courses and certificates, and Amazon just pays for it
Yeah.
so that you can get college credits, you can work towards a degree, work towards a certification, and upskill yourself, and Amazon pays for it. So that's exactly what I did. So I signed up for Amazon Data Analytics through Correlation One, and I mean it was a tough course. I mean, since I had some experience prior with Excel just from UPS and also through my economics degree, the beginning of the course wasn't so bad for me, but it ramped up quick when we started doing Python and SQL and
Yeah.
Tableau. It started getting pretty intense towards the end. But I mean, you learn a lot, and it really does prepare you for data analytics work in the future.
Yeah. What's your thought on the future of data analytics right now?
Well, I mean, I feel like we're going to need it more than ever at this point because just especially over the last few years, everything is data now. I
Right.
mean, we are data.
Yes.
You know, anything these days that where if you're not paying for it, it's because you're the product.
Hmm.
So the companies are gathering data on us more than ever, and they need people to crunch those numbers. They need people to make the insights and figure out, because ultimately I mean, you are businesses are trying to sell products to you, but ultimately they're selling you those experiences because ultimately you want them and they're going to make you happy.
Right.
So in the end, you're doing something that helps people to find the things that they're interested in, find the things that they like and that they want, and find them efficiently because you're the one who's looking at the data, looking at what they already like, and figuring out what they might want next.
Yeah. Yeah. Data, it's everything. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So Excel, you have a lot of great videos on Excel. For people who, looking for to learn about Excel, you're definitely a resource they can go to. Um, do you want to talk a little bit about Excel and some of your advice?
Well, my channel started, which this is my channel, Chaz Winter. It's it started not too long ago, like just only back in February. And I started the channel because in my data analytics course, I found that so many people were complete beginners when it came to Excel. And at that point, I felt like I was pretty advanced. So I thought a good way to try to help my classmates and sort of even sort of get my name sort of on the map in the class because I wanted them to see me as a role model in a way was I figured an easy way to do that would be to start a YouTube channel. So I started putting these videos out explaining the concepts that we were doing in class. I actually have more videos than this. It's just that a lot of them are unlisted because they contain actual coursework
Okay.
from the certificate, from the data analytics certificate.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't want to have them public. I wanted to
Right.
only have them available to my classmates.
Right.
So most of the videos aren't even viewable by
Right.
the public, but they're still viewable by people in the class as long as they have the links. And it was
Wow.
mainly because I wanted them to understand how to do index match, how to do VLOOKUP,
Right.
how to do a sum, but a conditional sum or a conditional count, because there a lot of people were getting really frustrated with the live course lessons,
Yes.
and it was sad to see so many people falling behind. So I figured, you know, instead of trying to talk to every single person and tutor them on the fly,
Yeah.
it would be good to give them something that they can look at their own pace.
Yeah.
And I had exercises. I gave sample files for them to download, and we went step by step to. And I mean, by the end of this course, we had about 500 Excel experts
Wow.
by the end.
Wow. That's great. That's great. And a lot of data analyst people, even in companies like Amazon, they mostly use Excel and VBA. They don't
Yeah,
use
and
complicated stuff.
even at UPS, I was doing a lot of work with data, especially when it came to turnover data, and everything I did was Excel.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was using a lot of macros and a lot of scripting, but I mean, you don't necessarily need to do it that way. I just did it that way to save time.
Right.
But even with we're talking about the future of data analytics. Even when it comes to things like AI that seemingly can do a lot of the work for you. I
Hmm.
mean, ultimately, it's the AI, the language models. They're based on existing data.
Yes.
So they can't really come up with anything new. It's
Yes.
still up to you to take advantage of it. It's sort of like using a calculator
Hmm.
in your math class. I mean, it's maybe if you're in second grade or third grade, you can rely on that calculator as a crutch to, help you subtract two numbers without having to think about how to subtract.
Hmm.
But by the time you get to high school and college, that calculator is only there to save you time.
Yes.
It's not there to be the student for you.
Yeah.
And it's the same with AI. As you get better and better with data, maybe if you're an absolute beginner, you can rely on it, but you get to a point when you're doing high level analytics work and it's not a crutch anymore. It's just a tool.
That's true. Yeah. Thank you for talking about it because I wanted to ask you that as well. What's going to be the impact of ChatGPT, Google Bard, all these AI tools on data analytics? Because a lot of people are afraid. They're like, "Oh, this AI is going to do the analysis." But that was a great point you mentioned because in the Google program, if you did the Google Data Analytics Certificate program, even as a data analyst, both of us we know like the analysis part when you start analyzing the data, that's the easiest part. People think that that's not data analysis actually. That's anybody can do that. That's the easy part. The hard part is to collect the data, right? From credible sources where you can in Google they call it the prepare phase. They have one phase to prepare the data and then process the data, then analyze the data. That's the third phase, then share and act. So during the prepare, where you trying to get the data, you have a lot of resource to do, a lot of data scraping to collect all that data, and and then you have a lot of data cleaning to do, right? Removing extra spaces. Sometimes the dates they don't have the same formats. The way people write date in the United States is not the same people write the date in Europe or in other party, other place around the world. And so you have a lot of formatting, a lot of organizing before even starting to say, okay, let me see if this makes sense or not, right?
Yeah, we had a funny one in our analytics course where it was we were analyzing student scores on from a university, their quiz scores for various colleges, their midterm scores, and we had a funny one where the scores were listed as, a score like, for example, if you got 49 out of 50, it would say 49/50.
Hmm.
And this would cause a problem if a student ever got a score less than 12 on a test where the total points were less than 31, because that just happens to be the format of a date.
Hmm. You're
So
right.
if a student got 10 out of 15, it would format itself as October 15th,
Yes, you're right.
and you would lose that score. So it was funny having to, speaking of cleaning data, that was a really funny one in the class where we had so many uh, cells that just didn't work the way they were supposed to, and it was because they were all formatted as dates, and so
Yeah,
we had to fix that first.
yeah, and yeah, a lot of time gonna be on the cleaning of the data. Like if you have a data analysis project, maybe let's say 90% of your time is gonna be to prepare that data. Because once you have the data clean, organized, any software can do the rest, right? You can do it Excel, you can do it Tableau. Um, but when a lot of people who are not data analysts, they think like they only focus on the visual, like the last part, what you show them, the graphs, the tables. But that's the just the visible part of the iceberg. And
Yeah,
and I don't know if the AI is gonna be able to do that cleaning, you know.
yeah. I mean, it's it's still going to come down to a smart person using the AI as a tool to be more efficient.
Right.
So maybe it just means you'd be able to get more done. It doesn't mean there are going to be fewer jobs. It means that each job will be able to accomplish more.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we are a very growth minded society, so this is a great way to grow.
Yeah. Yeah, on your videos about Excel, I love Excel. Excel, if there's one software everybody should learn is Excel. It
For sure,
just
you can use
does
it. You can use it for everything. I
it
use it in
does
my
everything.
personal life.
You just open a computer, you type it, it's good. So you have those some ifs, some count if functions. Do you want to talk a little bit about those? Because they're
Yeah,
very
sure.
important.
So, so what'll happen is sometimes when you're working with data and you need to conduct a filter, but you want to do it in a way that doesn't sort of break your database or break your table.
Mhm.
So sometimes just setting up the table and then trying to use a filter to remove rows just isn't going to work because it'll mess up your visualizations. It'll mess up your sums later on. So usually the best thing to do in that case would be to use what we call like a conditional sum or a sum if.
Mhm.
And in my case, I never use sum if on its own. I personally only use sum ifs with an S at the end. And
Mhm.
I have a whole video just ranting about it on my channel.
Mhm.
This where it's explaining why I will never ever use sum if on its own. I will only use sum ifs. In this way, if I have more than one condition, I always can account for it without having to, and it doesn't switch the order. It's a long rant. Don't get me started on it. But I made a video all about it.
Yeah,
But it's useful because it'll allow you. It's almost like a SQL query where you can filter just the info that you need
yeah.
and have it work in your formula without. And then if you need different information, you can just make one little change to your formula, and you'll get a whole new set of information without having to mess up your entire table using filters.
Yes, yes, that's a good point. So some ifs with the S at the end, that's much better because that's obviously you can add more condition inside, and the more you it's more easy to update if you want to update it without
Yep.
changing the function itself. Um, and then VLOOKUP. I know you spend a lot of time on VLOOKUP. That's really for everyone who's trying to be data analyst. Yeah, VLOOKUP. It just you have to know that, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely essential. So I tried to use VLOOKUP back at UPS and I just struggled with it. And then we got to this data analytics course through Correlation One, and VLOOKUP was like 2 weeks into the course. Boom, we're doing VLOOKUP, and I knew that like a lot of the students were already kind of seeing me as like, okay, he already knows what he's doing. If I have a problem, I'm going to go to Chaz. So, and at this point, I'm like, well, I mean, I know VLOOKUP, I've used it before, but I'm not an expert. So that was kind of another impetus for the YouTube channel. I figured just from my teaching experience, I knew that a great way to get really good at something is to try to teach it to somebody else.
Yeah.
So I decided I'm going to make a video about VLOOKUP because in the course of making this video, it will get me to be so precise about my knowledge of VLOOKUP that I will have no choice but to be great at it by the time I finish the video.
Yes, that's
And
true.
it worked out because by when I finished that video, I was learning VLOOKUP while making the video,
Yes,
learning the details of it.
yes, yes. It's a great tool for anyone doing Excel out there. If you're not using VLOOKUP, go ahead and Google it. You really love it. And now they
Funnily
have,
enough,
yeah,
funnily enough, I at some point it was before we did the lesson, but at some point I was just curious and I'm like, well, I noticed the VLOOKUP only lets you go to the right. Is there a way I can go to the left? So I Googled it, and that's how I found index and match. And it was
okay,
actually before we covered it in the class, so I quickly made a video on it so that the video would be ready. And then when we went over it in class, I posted my link. Like I got the explainer right here. Don't worry.
wow. Yeah, that's true. It's only let you go through the right, and then you use index and match to go to the left. And also I was Googling about it recently. Now they have X lookup.
Right, right. X lookup. That'll let you go in any direction.
Right,
But
but that one is
yep.
for the newest version of Excel. It doesn't work with the oldest
Right.
Microsoft.
That would be a huge downside if you work at a company
Yes,
where you're using company computers and they decide when they're going to upgrade and they may decide to never upgrade.
yeah, that's true.
And
That's
so if you're at a place, if you're at a school or a business where they're just not going to upgrade that software anytime soon,
yes,
and you're the only one using XLOOKUP and you send the file out and it doesn't work
that's
on
true.
anybody else's computer
That's true.
because they're all still using Excel 2016,
Yes,
then I mean it's also like to me it's better to kind of learn it the old school way
yes.
because at least you know it'll work with any version of Excel.
That's true. If you want to build something, it's better with the old school way for now. Yes, because you can send that to people, and it happens all the time. Some people build macros, some Excel with some macros in there, and then they send you the file. You try to run, it doesn't work, right?
Right.
Uh, so yeah, that's a safe route to use VLOOKUP, index and matches, and yeah, wow, yeah, Excel is really good. It's
Yeah, I mean, I've got a file on my computer in Excel where all it does is it tells me how long to put things in the air fryer. Where it's just all my cooking times. I have another one that tells me what gauge guitar strings to use, depending on because all my guitars are different sizes or different neck lengths,
Mhm.
and depending on how much tension you want on the guitar, you have to use certain string gauges. And I made a calculator
Nice.
using the cross-sectional width of each string
Mhm.
and to figure out how much tension would be on the string depending on the string gauge and the note that you're trying to tune it to. And it's all formulas, but I did it in Excel because that's just what I know best.
Yes. Yeah, it works always. Yeah, it's great. It's a great tool. So YouTube, you're obviously a YouTuber. I'm also a YouTuber. What's your thought on YouTube? Do you think it's a great platform? Do you think it's something that's gonna be here for the next, 10 years? And what's your goal with YouTube? You have two channels. You have the Chaz channel, and then um, another main channel that I'm gonna show on screen. But generally on YouTube, what's your thought on YouTube?
Well, I mean, obviously, I love it. YouTube has been my main platform as a viewer for, way over 10 years now. Like I got rid of my cable subscription probably in 2012, 2013
Hmm.
because I was doing all of my viewing on YouTube even back then.
Hmm.
So I wasn't even watching TV, so there was no reason to have a TV subscription.
Yeah.
But it's to me it's a great equalizer. So
Hmm.
especially at the beginning, I mean even now, it's anyone can grow their channel and become popular and have your stuff, the stuff that you created
Hmm.
viewed by thousands or hundreds of thousands or even millions of people
Hmm.
without having any industry knowledge, any show business knowledge. You don't have to know somebody in Hollywood.
Yep.
You can just put out good content consistently that people actually want to see,
Hmm.
and people will come and watch it. So I mean, this my channel, I mean, I started off getting 10, 15, 20 views on a video, and it was just people in the class. And
Right.
then after a while, each video that I would make would get successively more views. And then it got to the point where I would put a video out and it would immediately get like 100 views, which isn't a lot, but
Hmm.
just to think that 100 people actually care to see my face
Yes.
is just, it blows my mind.
Yes.
So I think it's great that I didn't have to buy anything other
Yes.
than, I guess, a webcam,
Yes.
but I didn't have to go to school for it. I just learned how to edit videos on my own. I got a microphone, got a webcam, and just made videos about what I know.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. It's a very good equalizer, and I think even today, a lot of people don't really appreciate the potential of YouTube, because if people knew everybody should would be having their own YouTube channel. It's like having your own Facebook account. Everybody's on Facebook. Everybody has a LinkedIn account or Instagram. YouTube is the same. Like to build your own personal brand and also to be able to reach people everywhere around the world for free. Most people now have internet on their phone or they have internet with their laptop. It just, yeah. I mean, you're not obviously making money in the beginning doing it, but if you're passionate with someone, you're passionate with something like, you play music or you very good in teaching, you're very good in math, in programming, it's just a great way to put your video out there. And like you said, a lot of videos when people used to ask me, hey, why I take a lot of certification. I'm always learning, I'm always getting certified, taking a lot of certification. And some people are telling me, oh, the reason why they don't do that is because you're gonna forget. I said, okay, that's good, but one way for me to not forget, anytime I finish a certificate, I made a video about that, you know, or I make a
Exactly.
course about that. So
Yep.
it just help you, uh, put that in your resources. And if you want to go back to review it, you can still review it for yourself and other people as well.
Yeah,
But
it's great. Like, and just one thing they teach you when you're professional development as a teacher, like when you're trying to train your students and get them good at something, sometimes the best way to do it is to make them teach others, even if they're not quite great at it yet. And it works too. Like if you find something that you love, find something that you really want to tell people about, or even something that you're just trying to get better at. I mean, making a video about it's a great way to do it.
yes, yeah, and similar to what you did with your Excel videos, I did the same with the Google Data Analytics certificate program. For us, when we finished the program, Google they gave us a case study. Okay,
Mm.
so they gave us 18 CSV files to do a data analyst project. For me, I had a project with a small company called Bellabit, and is a tech company. They build smart watches for their customers, and then they have the data. So we were able to download those data through Kaggle, and then you play with the CSV, try to using SQL and also we learn all programming language, try to join those databases, all of that. So as you know, a lot of people don't have a technical background using data analysis, math. Um, so for me, it was kind of easier because it was like a refresher. But what I did was when I finished my case study, I also got inspiration from other people who did the program because other people did the program. Some of them shared their notebook on Kaggle. So I was able to look at 3 full notebooks and then get inspiration and do my own. And once I'm done, I wrote my notebook as well. I made a YouTube video explaining my notebook, and then I put it online for free. And that video has like 24,000 views.
Nice.
And all of these 24,000 views people, they're taking the Google program. So every day someone is texting me, hey, thank you, I did it. Thank you for putting that. Or sometimes they didn't understand something. Hey, why did you use that method? Why did you do that? Why did you do that? Um, of course, it's not. I always tell them, hey, I want you to do better. Just I get inspiration from other people to create this, but hopefully you can get inspiration from that and make a better case study, right? You can teach me something maybe I didn't know. Um, but even for me right now, if I want to go back review that, I can go back review my own notebook and still remember a lot of things I did, a couple months ago, because it's just right there.
Right. And it's also interesting, speaking of that. Well, when I was applying for Amazon Technical Academy, I know we're not quite there yet, but I found that there were very little on YouTube about it. Like it's hard to find people's
Yeah,
experience. Like
yeah.
the most you'll ever find if you try to search for Amazon Technical Academy is you'll find a video where it's you'll see 5 videos, they're all the same. Just a guy takes a camera, puts it next to his alarm clock, and then goes back to bed, which so that he could show the alarm going off. And then he puts the camera by the coffee and drinks the coffee, and that's the whole video. Like, oh, this is my life as a software engineer. I
Oh
wake up,
man.
I drink some coffee, and then I go to work, and then I come home. Bye. Thanks for watching.
Yeah,
So I thought if I made some videos with a little more insight
yeah,
about the academy, even though I haven't started it yet, I thought maybe I can attract more people to the channel by finding something that people definitely want to see, but there isn't anything on it on
yeah,
YouTube.
yeah. Your
Like,
video
what is
really
it really
good.
like? What is it really like to be a software engineer at Amazon?
Yes,
According to YouTube, we have no idea.
no, that's true.
So,
No, that's true. No one is doing it, and it takes a lot of work because it's not easy as to make videos. Writing the scripts, filming, editing, putting out. So it has to be someone who's really passionate about teaching people, sharing knowledge. To do that. And also, I saw on your videos you using lit code, some those lit code problems. That's really good what you're doing because those problems are really hard to solve, some of them.
yeah, that site was really intimidating for me
Yeah.
when I first started working on it. Even the easy problems, I couldn't figure out what to do. I didn't I didn't have any of the techniques. I just I didn't know nearly enough. Even having my basics, I knew the basics of programming, but I had no idea how to actually solve a problem.
Mhm.
So, and a lot of what you do in your real job as a software engineer is problem solving.
Yes.
So I had to start learning those techniques. So what I did, I started watching other people's videos to
Mhm.
try to get the techniques down.
Mhm.
And the thing about a lot of these videos are people they're coding on the fly. Like
Mhm.
they just turn their screen on and just start coding.
Mhm.
And they're kind of talking as they go, but they're not really teaching.
Yes.
So I thought, well, I used to be a teacher, so I can probably take this one step further now that I'm getting better at leet code. I mean, I'm not great at it by any means, but now that I'm getting better and I can solve any easy problem. I can solve most of the mediums, and I can even solve some of the hards now.
Mhm.
So I thought, why don't I start making like actual, high quality videos explaining these concepts and how to actually solve the problem, like how the algorithm works, do it visually, and then actually show how it's done with code.
Mhm.
And I thought that that would really work out for people who were like me at when they're starting out. Hopefully they'll see my videos and say, "Oh, wow, this guy's actually explaining how to do this. I actually get it now."
Yeah.
And so then they can go on with their computer science careers the way that I kind of stumbled upon mine.
Yeah. Thank you for doing those videos. That's really helpful. As you know, lit code is very intimidating. We can do, for the most part, some of the medium problems. I use it a lot for SQL. They
Yep.
have very good problem there that you can, play, have your brain exercise on them.
Yeah,
Sometimes, as you
and it
know,
measures you too. It tells you how you're doing against everyone else's code.
that's correct. That's correct. As you know, sometimes there's no one, there's different way to solve a problem. Some people, sometimes they have their suggested solution. Some people come back say, hey, this one is better. You can optimize the code this way. But having someone breaking it down in a video format, even if you don't do all the problems, but just the one you can solve and then put it out there for everyone to see, is still very, valuable. No one else is doing it. There's no other
Right.
people doing it, you know.
And another thing I thought of when I'm starting to make my Leet Code tutorial videos, and I'm going to start doing other websites too, like
Mhm.
Code Forces and Advent of Code, which are some really brutal problems that I've been able to actually figure out somehow. So I'm going to start making videos on them as well.
That's nice.
But uh, one thing I found when I was first trying to use Leet Code videos on YouTube, even though the explanations weren't great, they were kind of a good way to get you started. And then one thing I noticed was that it really depends on what language you're doing them in too. Like you
Mhm.
might find an okay explanation in Python, but then there's nothing about Java. So I wanted to do my videos in a way that I can explain the algorithm and show it visually without needing to actually know any programming language.
Okay.
So that so the whole first, 75% of my videos on Leet Code don't even mention the programming language. It's just all about the algorithm itself and how to do it visually and how to problem solve. And then I show the Java solution. But at that point, you can just shut it off because you understand the whole problem. You could solve it in any programming language. So at that point, you might as well just pause the video and go solve it in your favorite language. You don't even have to do it in Java.
Wow, that's so good. Wow, that's great. Yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. If you focus just on breaking down the problem and on the algorithmic level, the language itself doesn't matter. You can now go use if you're doing C++, if you're doing C, Java, you can just go write it down, whatever you want. That's cool. Wow.
And,
Wow.
ultimately, there are only maybe 20, 25 total possible techniques you can use
Hmm.
to solve a typical computer science problem. So once you know them all, it's just a matter of seeing the problem and knowing which one to use. Just like with a word problem in math,
Yes.
where once you know all the tools, it's just a matter of reading the problem and figuring out, okay, this is a division problem,
Yes.
and then go from there.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. That's good. That's good. Now let's talk about Amazon. All about
Right.
Amazon. It's the main topic today, but we had to start, somewhere. But so Amazon, you went from associate to getting into the Amazon Technical Academy program to become a software engineer. So let's go in a timeline, like a timeline. How did you get in? And then let's go from there since your experience as a warehouse associate at Amazon.
Right. Well, like most people, Amazon's a huge company,
Right.
so they're usually always hiring. So if you need money, they're one of the places you just apply for. And I mean, I know I see a lot of people sort of, they seem kind of cynical about Amazon and they speak negatively. I got to say, I have nothing but great things to say about Amazon.
Right.
Amazon has completely changed my life, even from day one.
Yeah.
Amazon just completely changed my life. But before I came to Amazon, I was making $11 an hour, working about
Wow.
25, 30 hours a week. And
Wow.
so just Amazon got me out of debt and Amazon's about to make me a software engineer.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've got nothing but great things to say. And if it didn't work out, if I wasn't going to be a software engineer, they trained me to be a data analyst
Wow.
and they paid for the course. And even if that wasn't going to work out, right now I'm a transportation associate for Amazon on the Tom team, and they were going to put me in CDL school.
Yes.
So I would have been licensed to drive a truck.
Wow.
So I've got nothing but great things to say about Amazon. But to get back to the beginning, uh, I just applied online. You just pick your shift, you show up for your drug test, and once everything works out, they give you your badge and off you go. So I started off here in Jacksonville, Florida, the building Jax 3
Okay.
in the fulfillment center. I started off in inbound, and we were just receiving packages. So everything comes in the UPS or FedEx trucks, and sometimes Amazon trucks too.
Hmm.
And it would come down the conveyor belt and you just scan everything in, figure out what it is, how many are in the box,
Nice.
and then put it in a cage.
Nice.
And then the next guy in line comes and takes your cage and puts it up in the warehouse. They're known as the stowers.
Wow. So to get in, people go on Amazon, the jobs to apply, right? They go online, they apply, and then they wait because a lot of people apply, they don't get in, right? You just gotta be patient, right?
Yeah, just they're not going to contact you.
Right.
It's almost, I think of it, it's like a game almost. But once you understand the rules of the game,
Mhm.
you can win it.
Okay.
So the game at Amazon is you got to keep checking that website. And sometimes, like I looked online and saw somebody said that the jobs get posted at 10 a.m. And so I decided to test this theory, and it was true. I don't know if it's still true, but
Okay.
in 2019 it was true.
10
And so
a.m. every day.
I would be on the website on a Friday, and they said at 10 a.m. expect the jobs to go up. So at 9:59 I saw nothing. I waited 1 minute. I pressed refresh, and all the jobs were there. All
Wow.
the shifts, and they were 100% right. So I
Wow.
mean, once you know the game, you can win it. So
Wow. That's a
I
great
just
tip.
I found the building that was closest to me. I found the shift that I wanted. I didn't want to wake up early in the morning, so I took the night shift. And 2 weeks later, I was working.
Wow. So because every site is different, so the best way is to try to ask people working on that side, maybe to see when they're gonna be posting the jobs, right?
Yeah.
Are they
Or
gonna
I
be
mean,
posting on some week
if you want to be
on week?
fancy about it, there are browser extensions on Firefox and Chrome that will refresh the page for you and give you an alert when it's different. You can install one of those.
Yeah, because that's the hard part. I get a lot of feedback of people say, "Oh, we've been applying many times, you're not getting in." But like you said, it's kind of a game. But if you know how it works, because it's based on first in, first serve, right? So if you
Correct.
are the first to apply, um then you can go through.
Yeah.
That's good to know. That's good.
And to me, that's great because it's not really about who you know inside the building.
Yes,
It's not
yes,
like you once
that's
you
great.
get your application in, once you find the shift, nobody's gonna take that away from you.
Yes, that's really the best system you can find. Yes, it just first in. Yes, no one gonna take that away from you. Is great. So you get in, you are in a warehouse associate. So a lot of associate some. So what's advice can you give to someone who just get hired right now? Okay, you get in, you are a new Amazon associate. Um, Obviously sometimes you're intimidated, you're trying to get your way to know, what to do, how to navigate the warehouse, how to not, get in trouble. So how do you uh, become successful at your position as a warehouse associate?
Um, honestly, I mean, I've worked in other warehouses. Like, I mean, I worked in the UPS warehouse. I worked in smaller companies' warehouses, and I can tell you that Amazon is by far the nicest one. So, I mean, the nicest. I mean, it's the cleanest, and also just the nicest. I mean, the managers are the nicest. So, I
Mhm.
mean, you go work at a smaller business at a warehouse, and they're gonna be like people. I mean, I see horror stories online about Amazon with you know where they don't people say they don't have time to use the restroom and whatnot. I mean, that's true at smaller businesses.
Mhm.
That's at a smaller business, they're all over you. There may only be 10 people in the warehouse, and they're watching all 10 of you the
Right,
entire time, every single second.
right.
So at and then it's dirty, or you're blowing your nose and black stuff's coming out. But
Wow.
at Amazon, they actually keep the warehouse clean,
Yes.
first of all, or cleaner than these other places. And I mean, in my experience, it's all about teamwork at
Hmm.
Amazon. It's set up in a way that anyone can succeed at it. You don't have to be, a former high school athlete to actually do well at Amazon. You don't have to be the fastest, the strongest, the biggest. But anybody can come in and do it as long as they want to succeed at it.
Hmm.
So I mean, I mean, I do understand that warehouse work isn't for everyone,
Yes.
and I think a lot of the horror stories you hear online are from people who don't understand that.
Right.
That they come in, like a lot of people, since Amazon really will hire anyone provided that you can get online and pick the shift on time
Right.
before anybody else.
Right.
They really will just bring anybody in, and
Right.
I think a lot of people have this thought where they don't think of it as a warehouse job. They're going in expecting, well, I'll just show up and I'll move a couple boxes, but then they're actually just going to make me do customer service. Don't I'm not worried about it. And then when that customer service job doesn't come, then they get frustrated.
Right.
But I mean, you got to understand right from the start. I mean, you're going to be moving boxes.
Yeah.
You might even start sweating after a while. But once you understand that, I mean, the work itself is not nearly as grueling as the work I've done at UPS, as an example. Where
Okay.
it's not like we're at UPS, especially during peak season, it would like I would be, 9 hours into the shift and I can barely move, but I still got to go 2 more hours.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, what you said is so true. Like, set your expectation. Like, a lot of people hear about Amazon is a big IT companies. They don't expect to come over and lift boxes or do those labor jobs. They're mostly thinking about the technology company, but it's not like you said, it's not for everybody. But if you're ready mentally to say, hey, I'm gonna be sweating, I'm gonna be moving boxes, I'm gonna be hitting rates, I'm gonna be, it's a physical jobs. And it's not like I'm gonna be moved into a customer service job. No, it's the job. That's it. That's what you're gonna do 24/7 for the next couple of months and couple of years. That's it. There's
Yep.
no, I mean, you can still go back to school, like you said, with career choice, or you can still move up, get promoted in different functions. But before you get there, this is what you're supposed to do. And also, how do you avoid getting fired? What are some of the things, the red flags, something you can avoid so you don't get laid off, you don't get write-ups, you don't get fired.
Well, first, probably the most obvious thing is it's a retail company.
Right.
You gotta separate yourself from the merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a I've seen some people and to me it's a red flag. It's a really bad mindset. They see the box and they're like, "Oh, I wonder what's in there. Oh, I bet that guy got something nice." No.
Mm,
It's just cardboard. It
yes.
doesn't matter what's in it. It's just cardboard. Like you got to just remove it's not worth it to
Mm,
think about what's in that box.
yes.
So that's probably the immediate first thing to do is just separate yourself from the merchandise because that's you're already getting paid. You can buy your own stuff.
Yes.
Once you get your paycheck, you don't need to try to take it for free. It's not worth it.
Right.
But I mean, beyond that, it's just a matter of you can't get frustrated. Like
Mm-hmm.
some people find it very difficult to take criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And when if one day, I mean, you're doing everything right, but there's just your manager's manager got an email from his or her manager
Mm-hmm.
saying that, oh, the network wide, we're having a problem with this such and such metric. So from now on, I want everybody watching for this one metric.
Mm-hmm.
And so no matter how well you're doing at everything else,
Mm-hmm.
if you happen to be one of those people, maybe it's about coming back from break too late.
Mm-hmm.
And so three managers above your manager, they're getting yelled at
Right.
because people aren't coming back from break quickly enough. And so now your manager has no choice but to come after every single person who came back 1 minute late and get on their case like, hey, I need you back on time.
Yes.
And some people take that personally,
Yes.
and you can't.
Yes.
Like, you just got to understand if whatever they're talking to you about, especially if it's something minor. If they're talking to you about something minor, it means you must be so good
Yes.
they can't find anything to complain about, and
That's
so
correct.
they just have to pick something,
Right.
and so you should see that as a compliment,
Yes.
and don't take it personally, don't get mad, don't let it get in your head, but it's as long as you're doing your job. I mean, ultimately, the only way you're going to be criticized for something major like your rate is you have to be so slow that it's at the point where you weren't even working. Like,
Right.
what exactly were you doing the whole time?
Right.
Because nobody who's actually trying to work is going to fail to make rate
Yes. Yes.
because the rates they're not arbitrary. They're based on, the top 75% of associates. So if you're making rate, it's because you're just doing what everybody else is doing.
Right.
They didn't just make up a number and say, well, everybody hit this number, so let's double it for next week. It's not like that.
Right. That's true. And also, how about attendance? People, using their time too much.
Oh,
Uh,
well, I know all about that from my first run with Amazon. So, I mean, it was a different circumstance. It wasn't like I didn't want to work. It was just I was having all kinds of financial issues, and I can't make excuses. I just ran out of hours. So
Right.
there's nothing I can do about it except wait 12 months and reapply, and that's exactly what I did. But when it came to, I mean, some people, if they don't like the role that they're in or they don't like the manager, they will find any excuse to just go home.
Yes.
But the problem with that is eventually you just run out of hours, and then now you're really stuck
Yeah.
because now if they move you to a role and you don't like that role, but you already left 15 times this year,
Mhm.
at some point you're gonna have to just do that role. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
And so you just gotta, I mean, nothing in the warehouse is so bad that you need to run out of hours and lose your job over it.
Right.
Like, and ultimately, if you're trying and there is really something that you just legitimately can't do, like, I mean, at some point I was working with the big oversized stuff,
Hmm.
and I mean, I was doing it, I was doing well, everything was fine, except that it was kind of hurting my back.
Hmm.
So I just said to my manager, like, hey, I'm getting it done, but it's taking a toll on me. Can I do something else sometimes?
Hmm.
Like, you don't have to send me there every day. There are a
Hmm.
lot of us here. You can just rotate us, right?
Hmm.
And they started rotating me. Because
Wow.
honestly, he just didn't know. He thought,
Wow.
well, I mean, I put him there once, he did it. I put him there a second time, he did it again. So I'm just going to put him there every day from now on
Right.
because I never said anything.
Right.
And finally, I spoke up, and then they would actually rotate us.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great advice. You can find a compromise, be nice, respectful. Like the way you approach it was very good. Hey, I'm always doing what you told me. I'm just getting tired. Is there a way some days I can do something else? I'm sure
Yeah,
they're gonna say yes for that.
yeah. For me,
Yeah.
it was get the job done and then complain.
Okay. Yeah.
Just don't immediately complain about it.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, the business first. Business first. Wow.
This way I could show, well, you see that I did it. I've done it many days. I've done it several days in a row. You could see that I could do it. I haven't complained once, but I'm telling you, you could let somebody else do it sometimes too.
Right.
And they listened.
Right. So on the behavioral side, how to behave well at work, how to be a good team player, and then on the mental side, how to to take care of your mental health. Because for the most time, most time, like you said, you can see things that can frustrate you, but you can keep it inside you without letting it out of everybody. How can you control yourself on those situations and to take care about your mental health because some of the jobs they're very repetitive. Maybe you're at your station doing the same thing for 10 hours. You just by yourself thinking. If you're doing stowing, you're stowing. you know it's just the same thing. So how do you keep you know your you take care of your well-being and behave well there?
Well, for me, I might be a bit of a odd case because I would try to stay intensely focused
Mm-hmm.
on my work, no matter what else was going on around me.
Mm-hmm.
But I found that a lot of people, in order to keep themselves sane, they have to be as social as possible, and that wasn't me. I
Yeah.
didn't really need to be social. I didn't really need to talk to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But I found like on in my building on the night shift, there weren't that many people inbound night
Mm-hmm.
shift,
Mm-hmm.
so it sort of became high school part two for a lot of them,
Okay.
where it was just about drama, who's dating who, and all this, who's trying to date who, and it's for me like it could be frustrating
Mm-hmm.
to try to in, like not even to just involve yourself in it, but just be exposed to it. Just come on, stop, everyone. Why are we talking about this?
Right.
But I just had to stay focused,
Right.
and so I didn't. I just didn't think about it. After a while, the I found the greatest invention: a pair of earplugs.
Mm-hmm.
They give you earplugs in the front of the building for
Yes.
free. So every
Yes.
day I just go get a pair of earplugs
Yes.
and put them in my ears. I could still hear when they're calling break. I could still hear when the machines are turning on and off.
Right.
I could hear any of the buzzers and the alarms for the conveyor belts, but
Right.
I couldn't hear the talking. And that was the most important part.
That's really good. It's keep you focused, and keep yourself on the business. That's not your wrong if you want to talk about to some people, like you said, or if you want to go to the bathroom break, get some, or take a few minutes to get some water or stretch out. Maybe you're tired, do some stretching, right? Um, yeah, whatever works for you, but it's very good to take care of yourself, right? To be in that well-being state.
Yeah, and I totally understand a lot of people are very social and but in my particular role in inbound receiving, you're around everybody.
Yes.
So it really, for the people who wanted to talk, you really could just talk
Wow.
because there were at least three or four other people around you that are all doing the same job.
Right.
So it wasn't really like, if you're picking or stowing, you're gonna really be on your own
Yes.
or, for the vast majority of your shift.
Yes.
So I could see it getting lonely, especially if you're a very social person,
Yeah.
where it could start to get to you after a while.
Right.
But the departments that I were in, receiving and then the inbound dock and the outbound dock, you were just always around lots of people. I mean, even during COVID, there was always somebody you could shout to.
So you can go at Online Campus School and subscribe here and hit the notification so you get notified anytime you upload new videos. We have very interesting content here. So feel free to go ahead and watch whatever you like. You can also check my courses on Udemy. This is one of my latest course, Solar System 101 course for all level. This is one of the
Hi
greatest
everyone
course
and
I've
welcome.
ever.
I'm MD Jallo. I am an educator, a project manager, a data analyst about space and the long skills from public available information. Would you like to learn and refresh your knowledge about what is space? How big is space? About our solar system, about our own star, the sun, Kuiper Belt, the Earth cloud, beyond our solar system, with exoplanets and galaxies, planets, dwarf planets, moons in our solar system, and then learn about eclipses, asteroids, comets. I will see you inside the course. Ready, set, let's go.
So you can check that course if you like it to learn a little bit about our solar system, and also have other courses there. You can see here some other courses. The Ultimate Amazon Leadership Principle Masterclass, complete course on top 41 legit ideas to make money, a brief beginner's guide to gaming, a brief introduction about America. That's a great course also. Starting a business in America as a foreigner. Okay, that one also is a great course. Of course, the solar system course, one of the highest rated course right now on Udemy. Very hard. Make sure to check it out. All right, back to the video. Wow, that's good.
It wasn't. So I mean, it wasn't for me anyway. If I wanted to socialize, the option was always there. But I mean, personally, I just didn't want to. But I I just put on a pair of earplugs and went about my business. So the job never got to me mentally.
Nice. That's good. So then you move on after being, very successful as a warehouse associate, you move on to shipping and receiving clerk. So for someone out there who's a warehouse associate at Amazon who want to do that, what would you advise them to do to succeed as
Well,
a shipping
well,
clerk?
yeah. Well, the first thing is going to be patience because they hire from within, and so you're going to have to be always on that website, jobfinder.amazon.com. It's only accessible from inside the building, so
Right.
you'd have to get on like a work computer in order to get to it.
Right.
But once you're on that website, it'll show you all of the tier 3 and above positions that you can apply to. So that's just the first battle. You just got to be patient about those jobs opening up and then getting an opportunity to interview. But then the next thing, if you want to move beyond tier 1, the single most important thing that you're going to need to learn are the Amazon leadership principles.
Right.
And there were 14 of them when I first learned them. There are now 16, but it's not enough to just kind of know them. You have to be them.
Mhm.
Like somebody was talking to me. They didn't get into the technical academy, and they were asking me about the behavioral exam portion,
Mhm.
and they wanted some advice. And I told them, well, I just took every question and I thought about which leadership principle does this question apply to, and how do I answer it using those leadership principles. And then their reply to me was, well, I mean, I just answered it. I was just answering them honestly. I just thought if I would just be myself, that
Oh,
I
wow.
wouldn't need the leadership principles. And so
Wow.
my reply to that was, I mean, no offense, to be perfectly fair, if being yourself and following the leadership principles are not the same thing, then maybe they made a good decision in not taking. I mean, it's not enough to just know them. Like you have to actually apply them to your work life.
Yeah.
So
Everything about Amazon is the leadership principles. That's
exactly, 100%.
everything.
And so when they interview you, they don't want to just know about your experience. They want to know how it relates to those leadership principles.
Mhm.
And in your everyday work, even at Amazon, you're you're thinking about the leadership principles and which one applies to this situation and what action should I take based on them. And it actually makes your decision making a lot easier
Right,
when
right,
you can kind of just use a principle to
right,
justify your actions.
right. That's true. If you use especially the STAR method, right?
Right.
Situation, task, action, result. Some people talk about the SBI, situation, business, impact. I was talking to one of the Amazon managers to make it simply use SBI, situation. What's the situation? What's the business decision? What's the impact on the business?
Right.
What's the result?
And the people who conduct these interviews, they have a grid in front of them when they're interviewing you, and that grid it has STA and R on it. So they really are looking for you to answer STAR method. They have a section where they specifically are evaluating you on your ability to actually use a leadership principle
Mhm,
in your answer. Like the questions themselves are even sorted by leadership principle
mhm,
on their so the interviewers they have like a database of questions that they're allowed to ask you,
mhm.
and they're all related directly to leadership principles. So they pick out, if they're going to ask you four questions, they just pick out four principles and then pick out a question from each of those lists. And
Wow,
then their little rubric that they use to assess you, it's assessing you based on how well you actually applied your answer to that leadership principle, and also that you followed the format: situation, task, action, and result.
wow. So as a shipping and receiving clerk, what's the day-to-day look like?
So, I mean, for me, it was kind of hectic. I liked it because I was always busy. There was never any downtime. But as the shipping and receiving clerk, I actually had the job at. I had to change buildings in order to get this promotion. So, a new building in Jacksonville was launching right around the corner from my old building. So I moved from Jax 3 to Jax 9, and I was able to do it by being promoted to ship clerk. And so, as a ship clerk in a sort center, because this is now a sort center rather than a fulfillment center, sort centers are like the middle mile. They're the middle portion of the process
Yeah.
where there's nothing actually stored in the building, nothing warehouse related. You actually just receive already packaged merchandise. It's already packed up, and you receive it there and you just sort it into other trucks that are going to delivery stations. So nothing stays in the building. So as a consequence, it's pretty hectic because you have all this stuff coming in from actual FCs,
Mhm.
and everything that's in those trailers has to leave the building the same day. So it's not like a fulfillment center where a trailer comes in with merchandise and you don't necessarily have to process it that day, and it certainly doesn't get sold that day.
Right,
It's just going to be stocked up in the warehouse and left there.
right.
So there's not really too much of a, like, it doesn't have to be done instantly. Like when a trailer full of water bottles shows up, you just get to it when you get to it.
Yeah.
But at a sort center, when the trailer full of merchandise shows up, that's stuff that's meant to be delivered tomorrow, if not like later today. So it's got to be processed immediately.
Wow.
So you gotta juggle. You know when everything's coming in. All the trailers have GPS on them, so you know where they are and which one's gonna get there first. So I would just watch the incoming trailers, see how far away they are, figure out who's gonna get here first, and I just had to make sure there was always a dock door available, so that that stuff can be unloaded immediately instead of just sitting in the yard not being processed,
Mhm.
because that would fail to meet the customer promise.
Yep.
And then make sure we have the empty trailers in place because all that stuff has to be sorted
Mhm.
and put in the trailers to go to delivery stations. So I need to make sure every delivery station has their empty trailer ready, has a trailer that we're loading, and a one on standby, so that there's never any downtime.
Wow.
So the operation doesn't have to stop. So they were relying on me to make sure that inbound never ran out of work, or else all of inbound is standing around, and also make sure there's always empty trailers to put this work into, so outbound isn't just standing around.
Wow. Yeah, so that's a lot of yeah, you're right. So very challenging, but it's good. So you use a lot of analytical tools, you use a lot of Excel or a lot of predictions to make sure that when like you said, when the truck is coming, prep the team, and then when the truck is here, you can go ahead and receive
Yeah.
them and then get them ready for shipment.
Well, Amazon has developed a lot of tools that they look like Excel, But for example, the yard management system, it's got the rows and the columns, so it looks like Excel, except that, so you don't necessarily have to use Excel in dock management and yard management, but your Excel skills definitely translate
Right.
because it's all in the same format.
Right.
So, and then it's just a matter of filtering and using the tools at your disposal to make sure that, in Excel, you might want to make sure that row 14 is available, but in my case, I need to make sure dock door 114 is available
Right.
at the time that it needs to be.
Nice. Wow. So that's that's the role for someone want to get there. Make sure you learn, you're a very good associate, of course. You're hitting all the performance required, and you learn about leadership principles. You
Sure, yes.
practice probably the interviews, so you know how to present them to a manager. And
I wrote down all of my STAR method stories. I've got about 15 of them, and
okay.
they're all in a Word document. And I even organized my stories with letter S, and I wrote down the situation. Letter T, I wrote down the task, and I did this for 15 different stories. And I've been tweaking them for years now.
Okay.
But whenever it's interview time, I just review my document, just make sure I have it memorized so I know what to say when it's time for an interview.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so write them down, following the format, practice with friends, probably with maybe your manager can help you practice, and then look
Yeah,
for
you definitely
opportunities.
you don't want the first time you tell that story to be at the interview. You want to have already told that story a few times.
Okay, so you feel comfortable, and then you can also get feedback from someone. Say, hey, oh, I don't think that story is good.
Yeah, and when it comes to the result portion, you want to try to include metrics whenever possible. So you got to think about a way that you actually made a number better, like by increasing it or decreasing it, or just something got better because of a decision you made or a suggestion that you made.
Yeah. Wow. So get ready, prep yourself, leadership principles, practice, have metrics on your stories, and then look for opportunities in your building or some building around. That was a good advice because you were able to go to a new building and get promoted instead of just waiting at your building. I mean, you can still wait at your building to find opportunities, but you can also go at another building. Then you went to the transportation logistic specialist. So
Right.
how did you
So
get there? What are some of the lessons learned for that?
so that's within Amazon. That's known as the Tom team. And the main two roles at Tom Team, you're either going to be in a hostler, which is just a sort of miniature truck where you hook up to trailers and move the trailers all around the yard. That'll be most of your job. And then there's also a portion where when I was ship clerk, I would be on the radio with Tom Team, just sort of organizing trailer movements and whatnot. So when I went over to Tom Team, I was then on the other side of that radio conversation. So, and it was fun. And it's actually being a ship clerk is like the greatest possible thing you can do before moving the Tom Team because
Okay.
it means all they have to do is train you on how to drive the truck.
Mhm.
They don't need to train you on the ship, on the guard shack, on how to actually do the logistics portion of it because you already learn it when you're ship clerk.
Okay.
You're just on the other side of the radio conversation. So that was the easiest part of the job for me, just checking in drivers because I've already had that conversation so many times with Tom Team. Like, hey, this driver is here. Where do you want him? Or this driver has this, he doesn't have merchandise. He actually just has plastic pallets or he has tape or shrink wrap. Where do you want this stuff?
Mhm.
So then having to deal with that as a ship clerk gave me the experience I needed to be able to handle it with Tom Team.
Wow.
So all I really had to do was learn how to drive the truck. And to me, that was so much fun. Like I got to Tom Team. I really just did it because I didn't want to be in the building anymore. Because I mean, who does?
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
even if you like the job, I mean, who wants to be in the building all day?
Yeah.
I'd rather be outside.
Yeah.
So when I first had to learn how to drive the truck and move the trailers, it was really intimidating because I thought, I mean, I've never done this before. I've barely driven a U-Haul before.
Yeah.
And now I got to move these giant trailers without hitting anything, without hitting another trailer, without tipping the thing over on the side because I know I'm going to do that in the first week. But honestly, it was so much fun. Like just learning the basics. They bring you out into a wide open part of the yard where you can't possibly hit anything, and they just let you drive it around. They let you figure out like when you turn the wheel this many times, how does it affect the trailer?
Mhm,
When you're backing up and you do this, how does the trailer move? Because it always moves the other way, like it
mhm,
moves the opposite.
mhm.
And they gave me a whole. I mean, they gave me 2 weeks. I only needed one, but and most people only need one. But they give you 2 weeks to figure out how to actually control the trailers.
Okay.
And so, and you have all this wide open space. And my trainer was great, uh, Chris Newton at Jack's Nine. If you happen to be over at Jack's Nine and you get Chris Newton, you're in good hands. He
Right.
was phenomenal. He just kind of at first he just kind of let me do my thing. So he
Big
just
shout out,
said,
big shout out to Chris. Well done.
yeah.
Good job.
So he just kind of let me do my thing. He said, well, just try to get into spot 555 but don't actually make corrections. Let's just see where you end up.
Mhm,
And so and that worked perfectly with my mind
mhm,
because then I would just try to aim for, say, spot 555, and I would end up in spot 557, like way off. But
mhm.
that would teach me that what I'm doing works to get 2 spots away from what I need. So if I just go 2 spots forward and repeat what I just did, it's going to work.
Right.
And that worked great with my mind. And so I was able to pick it up quickly. And then, you have to approach spots from the left and the right. So then I would do it the other way and say, he would just go aim for 555. Let's just see where you end up. And it was the same. And after a while, you start to really get good at controlling the trailers and you start to be able to do tricks
Wow.
where like you have to back this trailer up, but somebody left a cone over here, there's a driver over there, so you can't swing out too far, and you kind of figure out the strategy, and
Mhm.
you're like, okay, so I'm not going to take this the usual way. I'm going to go forward a little more, I'm going to straighten out, and then I'm going to back in like this. When I get to the cone, I'm going to cut, and it starts to be, it's like a puzzle. It's so much fun.
Wow. Wow. So
And it,
so that's it's a great position. So if you have a truck that coming in an Amazon warehouse, right? Let's say you have a UPS truck or let's say someone who's have their own trucking company. So once they get to the warehouse, so they are not the one who's driving those trailers, right? It's gonna be the Tom team.
yeah, once the trailer is in the yard, it's the members of Tom team who are going to move it around.
Okay.
So we'll move it from the parking space to an actual dock door. When it gets unloaded, now the trailer is empty. So if it happens to be an Amazon owned trailer, we have to move it from inbound to outbound.
Mhm,
This way it can be loaded up again, especially in a sort center where the trailers don't stay in the yard for more than 3 days. Like
mhm,
everything's just gone within 3 days. And the merchandise itself is gone that same day.
mhm.
So so you definitely have to move. You're doing a lot of moves with in the sort center. So you're moving everything from dock door to dock door. Once it's loaded, you move it to a spot in the yard so that when the drivers do show up to pick up their loads,
Mhm.
everything is right there for them. All they have to do is pull in, grab their load, and go.
Wow. That's good, actually. It's a great system. So Amazon is very independent. Once the truck arrive, now is Amazon internal team that's gonna handle it. And also it's much better because as Amazon team, we have more trainings. We are more trained on safety, how to operate stuff. That's make it, you know, much better. But how do you deal with the weather condition when it's cold, when it's hot,
Oh, I
when you're getting
mean,
your lunch breaks, all of that?
yeah. Well, the nice thing about Tom Team is, I mean, we sort of have to keep in mind the busier times of the inside of their shift,
Mhm.
but we can kind of just take our lunch whenever. Like it's not really that big a deal. As long as you know, like it gets busy around this time of day, this time of night, so we should all be back by that time. But
Mhm.
otherwise, you just kind of take it when you want to take it.
Mhm.
But in terms of everything else, like with the weather and whatnot, I mean, you're working outside. Just
Right,
you can't, what can you do? You can't complain about it.
right.
So I mean, I live in Florida, so it's always either very hot or raining. So, but I mean, it's part of the job. I I bring a raincoat with me every day, especially in the summertime, because you can definitely expect that it's going to rain basically at some point for at least an hour every day. And then when you don't have the raincoat on, you're going to be hot. So bring some sunscreen, make sure you don't get sunburned.
Nice.
But it is just, to me, it's not something you got to worry about what you can control.
Yes.
And I cannot control the weather. So it's like the last thing I'll ever complain about.
Right. Right. Still a good thing. You're outside getting fresh air, like you
Yeah.
said, you're not inside the building, still good. So you talked about Amazon career choice, right? For people inside working at Amazon who want to apply for career choice, can you explain a little bit about it and how they can use it to get a certificate or get a degree within Amazon?
Yeah, sure thing. So once you've been an employee at Amazon for at least 12 months, you can get on AmazonCareerChoice.com and you can see, once you log in with your Amazon information, you can see all of the available schools that they are working with. And that's not only just colleges, it's also training programs. Like in my case, I use the training program since I've already got a degree. I didn't really need another one.
Mm-hmm.
But if you wanted to pursue a degree, you can pursue your associate's degree and then use those credits to go ahead and get a bachelor's in the future. And the great thing about it is it's not even like a reimbursement. Amazon just pays for it. So there's no money up front on your end. So you pick the class that you want to do. Like if maybe you want to get a CDL, maybe you're not you're not gonna get a degree at any point, but you want to be outside, you want to do something physical, so you get your CDL. Amazon will pay for your CDL. They'll put you in the school and you work full time, and then you just show up to your CDL classes, pass everything, and you have a Class A CDL. And you can use that to just get out of Amazon if you wanted to.
Right.
And go work for one of the companies that ships for Amazon.
Wow.
But I mean, if you, in my case, I wanted a data analytics certification, so I signed up for one. And if I hadn't gotten the opportunity with the Amazon Technical Academy, then my two plans at this point were to get my CDL and to, in the meantime, try to get a data analytics job. And if that didn't work out, I was just going to be a CDL driver.
Wow. Yeah, it's a great program to have your company pay for your school. And like you said, you can keep using that. Once you have your education, you can use it within Amazon or elsewhere. Just a great benefit. So let's talk about the Amazon Technical Academy. Woo, you just get in. Congratulations.
Yeah.
You're part of
so excited. I'm not gonna lie, I cried when I got
wow.
when I got the letter.
Yeah.
Well, really, first what happened was I spent from August until May when the decision was made. I spent all of that time just telling myself they're not taking that many people. The economy is down.
Yeah.
They may just cancel it altogether. You're not getting in. Don't worry about it. Just focus on the data course. Focus on getting your CDL. Just don't worry about the class. And then one day I was taking a nap, and this was May 22nd. I was taking a nap, and at around 5 p.m., I open my eyes, my computer's open next to my bed, and I see Amazon Technical Academy, action required by June 2nd. And I'm like, or action required. And like, I shot, I'm like, action required?
Oh, wow.
What do you mean action required? And I jumped up, ran to my computer, and saw that I got the acceptance letter. And I cried.
Wow, congratulations.
30 minutes. I got to work 30 minutes late because I just couldn't, I couldn't stop crying.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about it. How did you get in? What was this process? Especially sharing experience for someone who want to do it for next year or coming year.
So as much as I was good with Excel, I had very little actual coding experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to, even before the acceptance, I wanted to be as good as possible with actual programming. So I got on YouTube and I found a couple good channels. One of them's called Bro Code, and he's got a 12-hour Java course on his website. Not on his website, on YouTube.
Wow.
So it's a 12-hour video where it goes through from the very beginning. It even shows you how to download Java to your computer so that you could actually run programs.
Wow.
And I learned all my basics from that. Uh, Amazon does provide a course, like a prerequisite course, but I didn't find it very helpful. I think a lot of people in the program now said that they learned Java through that course, but personally, I didn't like it very much, so I used YouTube, like just a combination of YouTube and LeetCode to learn Java on my own without using the course at all.
Wow. So this
But
is
I know a lot. I know a lot of people did use the course, so it seems fine. Yeah, you see that
yeah,
Java course there. I've done the Java course and the Python course, both 12-hour courses.
12-hour courses. So
Yeah,
these are
I did both of them.
so these are great course. This is good.
Yeah, it's excellent. I can't recommend it enough. He goes through he does it in a fun way. Like you could see from his little avatar that he tries to keep it funny, keep it light, but at the same time you're learning the skills. You're learning the basics.
He has
And
1 million subscribers doing courses. This is awesome. And
yeah, and I mean, he's giving you a whole computer science course here. I'm doing I'm doing one of his more advanced courses now, the data structures and algorithms. You have to already have finished one of his other courses to start to understand it. But that one got me from being able to solve easy leak code problems to now being able to solve mediums and hards. I needed that data structures course. It was called Data Structures and Algorithms. Like you probably have to just search for it because it's a little more advanced than the beginner classes. But I really needed it because I wasn't understanding the medium problems, and I knew that if I'm going to pass an interview later on, or if I'm going to actually be a software engineer, I got to be able to solve any problem and not just the easy ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, that channel was really helpful for learning basics. And then of course my channel is great for applying those basics into problem solving.
Right. Wow. So you didn't have no prior experience in coding. You went on YouTube. You tried to. So the Amazon Technical Academy, most of is it Java, right? They don't learn
Yeah,
other programming language. It's mostly
in
focused on
ATA
Java.
they're gonna focus on Java. Although once you're actually in the role, if you do manage to pick up another language along the way, that will really help you for moving beyond the entry-level software engineer position.
Okay. Okay. So you went there, you broke code and other resources. I think that's a great channel. Someone put in 12 hours full course. Look at the views. That's yeah. And then he's like college tuition, $25,000, broke code free.
Yeah, exactly. And so when somebody asks me how I learned Java, that's where I learned the basics. So he doesn't go into any problem solving, but he does. If you don't know what an if statement is, if you don't know what a for loop is, if you don't know what an array list or a stack or a hash map, if you don't know what those things actually are, this is the guy to teach it to you. And then, of course, once you have all that down and you're actually trying to solve a problem, you don't know how to reverse a string, you don't know how to remove elements in place so that the removed element is only at the end and the ones you need are in the front of the array, or any sort of more advanced problems like that, that's when you come to my channel.
Nice.
When it's time to actually solve the problems. But for basics, this is the channel I used. And I mean, I got into the technical academy, so he must be doing something right.
Yes, he's definitely doing something right. So you get the basics there, but before you get to the ATA, you have those the phases of application, right? Phase 1,
Yes.
phase 2, phase 3. So how do you get through those phases? What materials you use to prep yourself?
So for one part of it, the AMCAT, AMCAT, you kind of just have to be good at math and have good verbal skills. So they're going to ask you logic questions. So you got to be able to figure out the logic, and computer science is all about logic, where you can't make assumptions. The code will do exactly what you tell it to do, no matter what you tell it to do. So you might think you're solving the problem correctly, but the computer is not designed to be smart. It's just designed to be fast.
Right.
And if you made a mistake, it's going to make that mistake with you very fast. So so that test was sort of an assessment to see how well you can handle logic, how well you can follow, these difficult instructions, because it applies to computer science. And then of course, there was the behavioral portion, which I said earlier. The best way to prepare for that is to know your leadership principles and actually apply them to your everyday work life. This way, when it's time, when you see those situations on the test, you know, okay, this one is learn and be curious, or this one is think big. And you know how to actually answer that question appropriately using the leadership principles. And I knew I was onto something because when I finished that behavioral test, when I hit submit, it redirected me to a new web page, and that web page was the Amazon leadership principles.
Wow.
So I knew I was on the right track when I saw the redirect.
Wow.
It was almost like when you finished the test, they gave you all the answers. Like there's the answer key right there. It's all the leadership principles.
Wow. Yeah, well done. That's smart that you think about, going, following leadership principles. So did they give you time to prep for the AMCAT and for the behavioral, or you don't have like
Uh,
to
yeah,
prep?
there were due dates. So once I applied at the end of August, and in fact, I only found out about the program a week before the deadline, and I only knew about it because there was the installments in the bathroom.
Right.
It was mentioned on the installments, and there are so many people in the program who
Yeah.
said the same thing,
Yeah.
that they found out about it from reading the flyer in the bathroom.
Yeah.
But I found out about it a week in advance. I applied, and then they give you due dates. I believe it was something like 2 weeks for the first two phases,
Yeah.
where you just had 2 weeks to get everything done. And then the final phase, they gave you like 3 months because you basically had to learn Java during that time in order to pass the technical assessment.
So you have
And
phase one is AMCAT, right? Phase two is behavioral. Then if you pass that phase, then you go to for the Java one, right? For the
right. And then our cohort was a little different because it was supposed to be due in January, but then Amazon did a lot of layoffs in January,
right.
and the kind of the future of the program was up in the air. So they pushed the program back by 4 months. So at that point, I mean, I was preparing hard to be ready in January, only to find out right before Christmas that, oh, by the way, it's all due in May now. So I mean, it was nice that I had 4 extra months to prepare,
Right.
but it also made me nervous because it meant everybody else had 4 months to prepare.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was so far ahead in
Yeah.
January that when they pushed it back by 4 months, I'm like, well, I'm just letting everybody catch up to me. Now what do I do?
And then you have some doubt about are they gonna push it again? Are they gonna keep
Right.
it?
And so for me, what I did was I convinced myself that I was not getting in. And so I told myself, don't worry about it. You have a plan. I started the data analytics course in February, which was even after the initial due date.
Right.
And I did that from February to June. So I was still in the class when I found out that I got into ATA. So, and then and if none of this works out, you work for Tom Team, and on Tom Team, they send you to CDL school for free. So that's always plan C.
Yeah.
So I just told myself, don't worry about ATA. Nobody's getting in. Never mind yourself. Nobody's getting in. So just put it out of your mind. So, and then when I finally found out, that's when all the emotion came out. So I couldn't believe it.
Okay. So to get ready for the programming phase, so beside the YouTube channel you talked about, Amazon have their own courses they have you to take, right? And then you have that YouTube that you talk about. Is there any other courses that you took to prep yourself?
I think once you find your resources to develop the problem solving skills, the Java skills, computer science concepts, and all that, the main thing that's going to make you successful, and sort of the main thing they assess people on in Amazon Technical Academy, is your ability to, and I'm sorry to keep beating this and repeating this over and over again, but it's your ability to apply the leadership principles to your work life. And even the cohort that just finished, unfortunately, because of the job situation, they weren't given software development roles immediately. Instead, they were all given internships, and whether or not they received an internship wasn't based on how they did on their technical assessment at the end of their coursework,
Mhm.
it depended on their behavioral interview. So basically, it depended on their leadership principles and if they could apply them well. So that's how they determine who got internships.
Mhm.
So it really is important, even for a job with this much technical skill required, like, you know, learning Java.
Right.
It was to the company, it was more important to hire leaders than it was to hire people who are good at Java.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's good to know. So for the phase three, you had 3 months in the beginning, then they extended for 4 more months. So you have 7 months to prep. Um, so so you did the YouTube courses, you did the lead code. So you went to lead code and tried to practice all those problems in Java to prep yourself.
Yeah, when I was learning Java with the Bro Code channel, I was kind of curious. Like, I wonder if there's a way for me to like get problems for me to do because I knew how to do a for loop, and I was just kind of making up like little silly programs where I would say input a number, and then you would type a number, and then it would do a countdown and go like whatever number you put, it would do a countdown and then go blast off, and just, you know, silly stuff like that. I was wondering if it was possible to like solve a real problem. So I just started Googling it. And I found some websites where it was just like open-ended questions like, you know, given this problem, what would be the solution? And then finally I stumbled on LeetCode,
Mhm.
where everything is done on the website. You don't need to download anything.
Right.
It's all set up where they give you the problem, they give you some examples, and then they have a bunch of inputs that come in, and your code just has to process the inputs and return the correct outputs. And that was so much fun to me because it was like being back in school doing word problems again, except instead of, you know, John has 4 apples and Becky has 10 apples and she gives 4 apples to John. It was, you know, it's problems like that, except that it's computer science.
Yeah. So how helpful is this problem in lead code to the ATA program? How?
I think they're most useful because they help you to develop the problem solving mindset
Mhm.
where you're actually using I mean, it's not really enough to know how to use a for loop, how to use a while loop or an if statement. It's more about understanding like the root of your problem and then what technique is required to solve that problem.
Yeah.
And then the loops and the if statements, those are all just tools towards solving the problem. But it's still up to you to actually, you know, learn the techniques and learn the data structures. And, you know, because different data structures serve different purposes.
Right.
And so having all those tools is one thing, but being able to actually apply the tools in the correct order in order to solve an actual problem, that's where elite code comes in. And that was really helpful for me. And that's why right now the focus on my channel has been solving leet code problems and doing it in a way that anyone could understand, you know, by solving them visually first and then using code.
Right. So once you start the actual exam, how long they give you to finish the coding once you get started?
The technical assessment for ATA was it was a 3 hour test. It consisted of, I don't remember exactly how many questions. I think it was around 36 to 38 multiple choice questions, all related to computer science, and then one actual coding problem where it was very similar to LeetCode. It was just done on a different website called HackerRank,
Mhm.
but the two websites are very similar.
Mhm.
But you're given a problem, the problem's on the left side of the screen, and your code goes on the right side, and you just type up all your code.
Mhm.
It gives you a button where you can test your code to make sure it runs correctly.
Mhm.
You can run it again. You can run it against a bunch of inputs. Like they'll give you some test inputs and tell you they won't tell you like if your code will work 100% of the time,
Mhm.
but they'll tell you whether or not your code works for the test cases.
Okay.
So there might be like 7 test cases like on HackerRank,
Mhm.
and it'll show you you've passed 5 out of 7, or maybe your code passes all 7 of them.
Mhm.
And at that point, if you're confident that your code's going to work for any situation, you just hit submit.
Wow.
And then on LeetCode, it'll tell you if you pass, you know, all of their test cases. There are a few hundred. But on HackerRank for that assessment, you hit submit. They don't tell you anything. They just say, "All right, thank you. We'll be in touch." but at least for that, because a lot of companies use HackerRank and LeetCode, or I think mainly HackerRank, to actually conduct technical assessments, which is what Amazon did in this case
Right.
with HackerRank. But the multiple choice questions were all they were definitely, you know, pretty. You had to be pretty good with Java
Mm-hmm.
to understand them. Like you had to definitely understand a lot of the concepts, and it wasn't just Java. It was also things like Git, and it's like the collaborative environment where you can contribute software to a team
Yeah,
effort
yeah,
where
like it,
multiple people are contributing code, so you got to keep track of the versions.
mm,
You got to make sure you're pulling the correct code and making your updates and pushing them properly. So there were a lot of questions on that, like how to use those commands and
yeah,
how to use like a Unix file system, like
mm,
how to if you're in a terminal or a command prompt, how to list all the directories, how to change directories,
right.
and things like that, because a lot of the job involves that as well.
Yeah,
And then there were the actual Java problems where you're given like 10 lines of code, and the question is which one of these is going to be the output of that code.
right.
And there might be a for loop and then another for loop, so it might be trying to make a shape. But then, I mean, is the shape like 3 by 5 or is it 5 by 3? So you gotta read the code and figure out like what the orientation of the shape would be, or how many, if it's trying to spit out equal signs, like how many equal signs is it going to be? Is it going to be 5 rows of equal signs, or is it going to be 3 rows of equal signs, but there are 5 of them in every row? And things like that.
Wow.
I mean, it was fun. It was almost like you were in a college class, like taking a midterm.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely a great experience. And like you said, Git is very important. Git, GitHub, because as a software engineer, you want to be gonna be working in a team, so you're gonna be
Absolutely.
contributing in other codes that you share with other people. Um, yeah, not it's not just learning how to do the code, but how to use that in a team setting, right? With all the sharing, all the uh, the command, typing the command, the shell, the PowerShell command or the command lane. Wow,
Absolutely. So much of software development is teamwork
it's teamwork. Yeah,
and collaborating, and sometimes coding together at the same time,
yeah,
and sometimes coding apart from each other, but you're all contributing to the same project.
yeah.
Just with little incremental changes here and there. And Amazon stresses that in the training. I'm doing some of the training, like I've got some of it ahead of time, so I'm able to just sort of look through it all,
Mhm.
and just being me, I if you give me the training, I'm gonna read it all, like way in advance. Like I want to see what it is.
Yeah,
So I see that a lot of the training is about your ability to collaborate.
yeah,
Like they train you how to work in the teams,
yeah.
because when you actually go out there to become a software engineer, you can be the greatest coder of all time, but
Right.
if you can't work with your teammates,
Yeah,
that's going to be a real problem. So
yeah.
so they teach you how to collaborate in the training documents.
Wow,
How to talk to people, how to get information, how to ask questions, how to answer questions,
wow.
and then and they really do put an emphasis on you owning your portion of the project,
Hmm.
where you're not like you're not going to just design the whole website,
Yeah,
the entire Amazon.com
yeah.
retail site. You'll be responsible for one little portion,
Right.
where just your department, like you might be in the department that handles payments,
Hmm.
and then you might be in the part that does just this one specific type of payment. And then you want to make sure your code works for your little segment. And the nice thing is it's not going to destroy the other segments,
Yeah.
because all the code is definitely blocked off from each other, and you're working on small parts of the bigger picture.
Wow. This is gonna be such a great experience. Congratulations. So, how do you see yourself in the next 9 months? Let's say in the next year. So hopefully, once you graduated, once you start your job as software engineer, we can do this again to reflect on all this journey, so we can share with people who are interested in getting to the program. But so how do you see the future now that you're in?
I mean, I was already working pretty hard learning Java, even with the mindset that I wasn't getting in.
Right.
Once I found out I got in, I it became obsession. Like all I do is Java. You can't see it, but I've got the computer screen here, a third one here, and a fourth one back here because I've got the
Wow.
stuff that Amazon sent me as well. 'Cause so I can work from home. And so all I do now is just computer science. It's all I think about. I started making videos because I didn't know what else to do. Like, well, I understand this. I might as well just teach it to somebody.
Yeah.
So this all I do is I'm trying to learn the more advanced concepts now so that I can be in a position to make videos about them. And I'm starting to solve even harder problems now. And not only that, but I'm also using the Amazon materials because it's not enough to know how to code. Like I said, I I got to be able to work in that environment as well. So I'm also learning just and I'm learning how all of this applies to the leadership principles. I'm learning about the collaborative things. I'm learning about the culture of Amazon software engineer position
Right.
and basically just how they do things so that once I'm in there, I'll be well prepared for that side of it too.
Yes, I'm sure you will be. I'm sure you will be. So this is a great time for the YouTube videos. Do you plan to put a video every week, every month? Because like
Well, I'm
you
trying,
can build your YouTube right now at the same
yeah,
time you're going.
I'm trying to get into a rhythm now where I put out I put out a leak code video earlier this week, and then I actually did an interview with somebody who just graduated from
Right,
ATA,
right,
and I put that on the website. But right before I interviewed them, I actually finished another leak code video, and then even before I released that one, I managed to finish another one. So I'm building up a queue now of videos so that I
yeah,
can put them out like every couple of days or so.
right,
And even though I've got two videos in the queue, I was working on one right before we started this.
right.
And when we finish, I'm going right back to it
Nice.
because it's just, I love doing it. It's
Yeah,
just, it's, I'm so thankful that I have the opportunity. And so I'm definitely going to take advantage of it.
yeah, that's great. So what are some of the feedback you're getting from the ATA graduates?
So a lot of them are saying sort of what I'm saying to you now, that it's like being good at coding is one thing. I mean, they're going to train you definitely to be good enough of a coder that you can solve Amazon problems, at least at the entry level. But really, the main thing is that you need to be able to work in that environment
Mhm.
and understand Amazon's culture and be able to actually contribute in that aspect because it's not enough. It's not always about coding. You have to also do a lot of support where, some tickets will be generated. Like there might be an automatic ticket because a service just went down or something's not working the way it should, or a customer, maybe an AWS customer, is having a problem with their app.
Mhm.
And so it might be something that you can take care of on your end. And so you got to be able to work on your team in that aspect of the job as well and support roles. And you, it's a learned skill. It's
Right,
something you have to actually develop. And
right,
that's part of what ATA does with you as well. And so a lot of the graduates were really stressing, just like I did, that hate to say it again, leadership principles are really important for making good decisions
right.
in your role. Because I mean your decisions will be assessed against those leadership principles, so you might as well apply them right away.
Yeah. Wow. So on a personal note, you have your main channel where you doing a lot of good musics.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so I'm glad you're doing that because it's good to have that work-life balance. It's helped to have some hobbies on the side, something to do to recharge. For me, I like going at the gym. I like working out. I like doing running, all of that. Help to balance things out. But you know, that channel is doing good. So what's your goal for doing your musics?
Well, my other channel with the band at B3 Band, uh, the sort of, even though it does have over 1,000 subscribers and the music videos tend to get thousands of views, but the way we do things, I mean, despite the name of the band, it may look intimidating, Bloodbath and Beyond, but we're actually a lot of fun, and we have a lot of live videos where the crowd is really into it, and we play pop songs like here, "1,000 Miles." You know that piano song Vanessa Carlton. You know I'd walk 1,000 miles. I could just see you. So it's that song. So we play it live, but we play a metal version of it. And that's all of our music. We play like Demi Lovato, Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, Justin Bieber, and that's our whole set. So it ends up being a lot of fun, even though it's a metal band. It's like we call ourselves like we're the best first date band around. So if you want to take somebody on a date, you take them to see us.
Wow.
But
Wow.
but the thing about this channel is because we're playing covers, we can't monetize any of it. So no matter how well this channel does, we can't run ads
Oh,
because the publishers of the original songs, I mean, while it is good that they're not copyright striking us, but at the
right.
same time, we are not allowed to run ads.
Mm,
So and every single one of our videos, if you look on my panel, my YouTube creator studio,
mm.
every single one of them has a copyright claim on it,
Oh,
which is
wow.
fine. Like it's not a strike, so it's nothing bad.
Right.
But it does tell you when another company has taken over the monetization of your video.
Right.
And we're just used to it at this point. Like it's gotten to the point where we actually contact the publishers in advance when we're about to put a music video out,
Hmm.
just to let them know that one of their songs is going on our channel. So and we give them the link so they can just monetize it right away. They don't have to try to find it.
Right.
And in exchange, these companies will give us a free license
Okay.
to use the song. So everything we do on YouTube is licensed.
Wow.
So, but and we've never had to pay for a license, but in exchange, we simply cannot run ads
Yeah.
because all the ad money has to go to those publishers.
Yeah, it goes back to them. Even if you're not using their music, you guys are putting your own music, right? Or you using their
No,
music.
we play metal versions of their music. So
Oh,
we are using like it's their lyrics.
yeah.
We change the music around to work with a metal band instead of because we don't have a keyboard player, so
Right.
everything has to be on guitar,
Yeah.
and it has to sound like metal. So we try to make it more like heavy metal instead of like a traditional pop song.
Okay. Do you guys plan to in the future to write your own songs, or you want to continue in this format?
I like this. This is what's fun for me. I,
Because
I don't like doing I don't like doing my own songs,
because these are
especially because I mean, like I'm at a point because I love pop music. You can see I'm wearing a K-pop Blackpink shirt, but I love that stuff, and I also love metal, so I found a way to combine it. So for me, I don't like having to write lyrics. I don't want to do original songs.
right.
I don't like. I would rather play a show where people who have never seen us before can actually still interact and they can still sing along because they actually recognize the songs.
Right.
And I have no illusions about my stardom or lack thereof. I No one's ever going to know a song that I wrote. And that's true for, 99.99999% of songwriters. No one's ever going to know your songs.
Right.
So I've accepted this about myself. I accepted it years ago, and that's why I do what I do.
Yeah.
Because I would rather people who have never seen us before, they're passing by or they're just kind of casually listening. Maybe they were at the bar for a different reason, and all of a sudden they hear a song they know, except that it's a metal band performing it, and all of a sudden they're interested.
Yeah.
And I love that feeling, like where, especially if it's a place we've never played before, where the first couple songs, no one really knows what to think of us, but by the end, they're all up front singing along,
Yeah.
and I love that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's good. That's good. It's good that what you're doing. It's a great channel. That channel, like you said, is growing pretty well. A lot of the songs are very popular songs, and yeah. So we went through tough time. The economy went up and down. With a lot of people gets laid off. Some people are getting back on feet. So just on a hopeful note, you went from being an Amazon associate to becoming soon a software engineer at Amazon, which is a huge success. You are one of the creme de la creme who gets selected in the program out of thousands of people who wanted to be in. So what advice do you have for people in general, having tough time? How can you give people hope, so they never give up?
To me, the main thing is control what's controllable. Because I mean, at Amazon, I started from the bottom. I got fired, and then I started from the bottom again.
Wow.
And had to work my way up. And I mean, I'm not there yet, but it's looking promising. That I'm hoping to be a software engineer within the next year or so, year and a half, depending on how long it all takes. But I mean, the main thing was I didn't worry about the things that I can't control. So I would go to work every day, and I can't decide which department I'm going to be in. I can't decide what my role is. I just look on the board, see where I am, and get to work. And I'm not worried about what people are talking about. I'm not worried about like who has the better job today or tomorrow, or who keeps getting assigned this or that. I just worried about me and just did my job. And after a while, I mean, it was up to me to find the opportunities just by looking for promotion opportunities. The managers were always helpful, ready to help you get promoted. It might just be a metric on their end. Like it looks good on them if they get somebody promoted that was under them. So they're always willing to help. I learned about the STAR method from my managers, and it was just once I found the opportunities, just move up, and a little bit of luck along the way helped me to get where I am.
Well, congratulations. That's whatever you're doing is working. Great advice. Control what you can control. Focus on yourself, improve yourself every day. Chaz, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being transparent, for sharing your experience, going through teaching, through UPS, to being successful at Amazon, to the 8-year program. You're a YouTuber, I'm a YouTuber. Hopefully we can collaborate again in the future.
Sure.
We can keep bringing value and high value content to our audience. Yeah, thanks for being here, and see you next time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Have a good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.